It was just about a year ago, at a time when every passing day brought news of yet another financial giant on the verge of collapse, that I saw one of the most memorable headlines of my life. Dow falls by 777 points. Isn't that a remarkable number? 776, it's like 666 wasn't evil enough. And at a time when so many people were genuinely worried about the coming of another Great Depression, there were others who weren't worried at all. How could that be? The answer is simple. They knew they had enough money. They may have been concerned for their friends or wondering whether they'd still have a job, but they weren't too concerned for themselves because they knew they had enough money. And investments may have helped them get there. But more important by far was that they knew how to save money out of every paycheck. It is the key financial skill. Do this well, you can have all the money you ever need. If you don't, you risk living hand to mouth for the rest of your days. So when we want to save more money, we're often encouraged to make a budget. What's that like? We take all our expenses and list them out. The mortgage, insurance, food, entertainment. And then, where can I cut back? What can I give up? What can I do without? Is it any wonder that fully 95% of people, 19 out of 20, say they don't enjoy budgeting? It lines up our emotions in opposition to our goal of trying to save money because budgets are all about deprivation and want and doing without. If you want to save money, there's a much easier way. Here's how this works. Start by taking the credit cards and putting them in the sock drawer. Don't cut them up. That's too scary. Just put them in the sock drawer. There are lots of reasons that we don't want to use credit cards, but the most important is that when we use credit cards, it feels different than when we spend in other ways. Think about it. When we use a credit card, we might hand it to a clerk, they'll give us our merchandise, and they'll give us our credit card back. We haven't had to give up anything. It's like getting something for nothing. That's what it feels like. And it's the most important reason to leave the credit cards in the sock drawer, just for a week, maybe a whole pay period. Well, if we're not going to use credit cards, we need some other way to spend. Well, for the large expenses like the mortgage and the utilities, we can write checks or maybe use automatic bill pay. For everything else, for our day-to-day expenses, we can use this stuff called cash. Remember cash? So we'll need to go to the ATM or, heaven forbid, actually see a live teller at the bank and get some money after payday and put that in our wallet. But before we go out and start spending it, get into your wallet and take a $5 bill. And take that $5 bill and put it in an envelope, and then put that envelope in the kitchen or in the medicine cabinet, someplace you don't normally think to look for money. It can be anywhere you like. Put it under the mattress, bury it in a mason jar in the backyard. My mother's Aunt Rebecca of blessed memory used to wrap it in butcher paper and put it in the freezer labeled frozen dough. Now just go through your life and you'll find you're running short of cash about $5 sooner. What happens when we run short of cash? We start to think more about all of our expenses. For a large expense like a house or a car, we wouldn't spend that kind of money without really thinking about the value that we get, would we? So all we're doing by being a little short of cash is making sure that we're thinking about the small things too. Do the small things matter? Yeah, someone says yes, with some feeling. There's a story behind that, I'll bet. Well, let me ask all the rest of you. As you were walking in here today, if you'd seen a $5 bill on the sidewalk, would you have stopped to pick it up? Yes. How about a $1 bill? How about a quarter? If it's worth stopping to take, it's worth keeping for yourself. And when we're short of cash, it helps us to remember that we don't necessarily need to buy everything we see. In fact, the first thing to go when you make yourself short of pocket cash is the impulse buy. It's the purchase you didn't even know you wanted 15 minutes ago. How important could that really be to your life? So we are spending our money on things that are more important, and our spending is automatically aligning more closely with our values. Now, something else will happen when you are short of pocket cash. You'll notice more often when you say the words, "it's only," as in, "it's only $1.55. Watch out for the words, "it's only." That should raise a red flag that you are trying to convince yourself that the amount is small enough that it doesn't matter. Would you stop to pick up a quarter? It all matters. Now, I used to say to myself, it's only $1.55, particularly about gourmet coffee. I love my gourmet coffee. And I'm not talking about espresso or cappuccino. I mean just coffee, actually decaf, which I brew extra strong because I really don't want that burst of energy. Do you know how much coffee I could make for myself for $1.55? I can have a week's worth of coffee for the same amount that it costs me to have 1 cup from the Gourmet Coffee House. When I brew it myself, it costs just about 20 cents, including the cost of the filter. That's not weird. When you write about these things, you have to include the cost of the filter. Now, do I still get coffee from the Gourmet Coffee House? Yes, about once a week instead of once a day. And when I do it on the way to someplace like here, so I can actually have the cup to show you, it's not an ordinary food item, it's a deductible prop. Does the coffee that I brew for myself taste as good? No. Do I care? I'm saving more than $1 every time I skip the Gourmet Coffee House and brew it myself. It's the sort of insight that you can have when you realize that the way to go about this is to turn budgeting on its head. Don't add up your cutbacks to figure out how much you can save. Make a decision about how much you're going to save. And then where to cut back will take care of itself. But make sure you don't get too concerned about the money. Because when I think about this coffee that I have in the office, I think about my wife. I think about my daughter. I think about the experiences that I want to have with them. And I think about how having this coffee instead of the gourmet coffee from the coffee house leaves me more able to have the life that I want because I'm not as worried about money. And the moment you stop worrying about money, life gets better. Thank you.